Hey everyone, Anthony here, Banners on the Wall, and welcome to a special video version of In the Box Thinking. This is our series for this season on Banners on the Wall, where we have a look at the last game I went to, which, given my position as the match night commentator this year for the Guildford Flames, was from this past Wednesday, the 24th of September, and a 6-1 win for the Nottingham Panthers at the Spectrum against the Guildford Flames. Doing this one as a video purely for the basis of time, because trying to write an extra 600 or so words wasn't going to be practical with everything else I've got to do at the moment. But I figured, let's keep things rolling, and newer folk won't know, older folk will. Every so often, one of these video versions of bits and pieces will occasionally pop up in your feed, or an audio version, because time, and we like to keep things people on their toes, shall we say. I should have potentially taken it as more of an omen than it was at the moment. If you read the last issue, you know that I managed to overcome a bit of a car issue to make it to last weekend's game against the Blaze. And this time I was walking to my car, and as I shifted to adjust my coat, my water bottle fell out of the outside pocket of my bag and the lid cracked on the floor. Now, I don't believe in luck, but even I probably, in hindsight, should have realised that maybe this was an omen as to what's to come. Now, I haven't had to do many midweek games over the last couple of years. Since the Bison wandered off into the mist and I spent the last couple of seasons travelling around, watching different bits and pieces and the odd spot of commentary here and there, my midweeks have generally been free. In fact, the only times I've really been to a game midweek on a Wednesday has been to commentate for the Flames. But apart from the odd Friday night, I've been relatively easy in terms of my hockey. And the idea, of course, is that looking at the Guildford schedule across the season, it's mostly one game a weekend, and even a few weekends where I'll have no game to do at all. But there are a couple of midweeks in there, and this was one of them. Trying to commentate after a full day of work is what it is. No need for any sympathy. I made the choice to do the gig, right? From a practicality standpoint, though, it has been a bit more interesting, just because knowing I have one game a weekend, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday, means that I had to try and truncate some of the timescales I'd set out in my head for myself. Flames played Saturday versus the Blaze, and knowing I had another game on Wednesday meant that I tried to, and managed just about, to truncate most of my process. Now, if Guildford had not been playing Nottingham, it would have been very different, because I would have had to kind of interject a few more bits and pieces into this, like a more thorough going over of the pronunciation guide, or deeper looking into some of the stats and bits and pieces. Whereas actually having played Nottingham already, it meant I was mostly there or thereabouts when it came to what was going on. All the bits and pieces printed off, headed up to Guildford. And actually, the process is just everything I usually do, slightly later on in the day. The useful thing about my work is it's relatively flexible. Started early, finished early, spent a bit of time with my son after school, hit the road and hit Guildford. And I try to get to Guildford about 75 minutes before face-off. So I've got time to sit down, get everything sorted out, read the game sheet, double check any changes and stuff like that. And one of the things that I do, if you ever watch a full live stream, the introduction I write in the rink on the day, because I want it to be as up to date as humanly possible, and not kind of accidentally leaving anything too old fashioned. And actually as well, I find it just a really, really good mindfulness exercise, being in the moment, thinking about what's happening there, leaving everything behind me at the door. And it's generally worked so far, and I don't see any reason to change it at the moment. The only thing that I should say that did actually happen during this game that did make me chuckle, before we talk about the game itself, was I had clearly not listened very hard to the Nottingham Panthers pronunciation guide, because what I heard and what I was told were different things. Now, in my head, one of the players' names I changed the pronunciation of, and you can hear it on the highlights, but it's literally because, and I did credit him for it, John Bullard, who commentates for the Panthers, sent me a message going, the pronunciation is this is what I've now been told. And in my head, I sat there and I re-listened to it on the pronunciation guide, and it's like, this doesn't sound the same. But trust Jono. We'll roll with it. And then we leave it off from there. So officially, it's Limos, not Limos. We leave it at that. And apologies to Brian for getting his name wrong for 20 minutes. The game itself, obviously you look at the score and you immediately go, it's just not working at the moment for the Flames. And you'd be right. For whatever reason, it's just not clicking right now. And there are so many different answers to this, and I've seen a bunch of different philosophies about it online. People blaming individual players, which is a bit of a strange one because ultimately the entire team isn't performing on the ice. One win, and over the last 3 games now, they've conceded 19 goals and scored 5. That's bad, right? That's not one person failing. That is a collective failure and things not going their way, right? So it's really, really easy to just go, this player's terrible. At the moment, nobody's doing particularly brilliantly. Individuals are doing good things in moments, and obviously, great work by Jack Jacome sets up Matthew Gosselin for the goal. But what we have to note is that form can change. Think about the Panthers side that the Flames beat a week and a half ago, and just how terrible Nottingham were in that first period. And Nottingham have not had a great start to the season either. Their Challenge Cup campaign has been torrid. The Steelers played them off the ice, and yes, they muscled their way past Manchester at the start of last weekend. But ultimately, what you end up with is just that little bit of knowledge that something at some stage will click. Now, what causes that to change, we don't know. For the Panthers, it was relatively straightforward to see what actually worked. And that was breaking up their top line. The Panthers came into Guildford with a top line of Fossier, Doherty and Pearson, and it was ultimately probably the best line of all the teams on the ice, but it left Nottingham with a top line that was too heavy and the rest of the team couldn't work with it, right? So you split it up. Nolan Volkan heads to the top line, Chase Pearson comes onto the second line. Nottingham are instantly better balanced, and it showed in this game, right? In terms of the Flames, as much as people have criticised some of the things said by Andy Hemmings in the post-game interview, he's not overly wrong. Go back to the details, keep things simple, and generally hockey works like that. Yes, hockey is a massively complicated game with advanced stats, and we can count up absolutely anything and everything and look at high danger chances, block shots, Corsi, whatever you want to do. But ultimately, it is a relatively straightforward game for children, which is pass, shoot, score, right? And the Flames at the moment have little confidence in themselves, and that is completely understandable given what's happened. But ultimately, all it takes is one moment, as we've seen in hockey, whether it is the highest levels of anything or the lowest levels of everything. Anything can happen and a team can get on the run. What I think is probably one of the bigger issues for the Flames right now, their 5-on-5 team defense just isn't quite there. Guys are not in the positions that they need to be. And ultimately, you can look at the defense and go, well, they're letting in lots of goals. But defending is not solely the job of defensemen. They are the ones who do the bulk and do the heavy lifting. But if your forwards aren't in the places they need to be as well, then it causes problems. The Panthers will be really happy after this game, but then again, it could be a false dawn. The Panthers could go into Saturday and the Flames could absolutely blow them off the water at the motor point, and we'll be having a slightly different conversation. Then again, Guildford could essentially see their Challenge Cup campaign end effectively this weekend. Lose to Nottingham, lose to Sheffield, chance to make in the semi-finals are dead in the water, if they weren't already a bit of a long shot as it was. But this weekend is just about taking it one thing at a time. Win 5 minutes. Win 10, win a period. Because this is the thing, Guildford have not won a period of hockey since the previous weekend. Didn't win a period during the week. Drew the final period, which is, given they were 5-0 down, that's what you can ask for. But there's so many little bits and pieces that just don't seem to feel like everything is clicking at the moment. And sometimes it takes time. And I realise that in the minds of the fans, the Challenge Cup kind of occupies this weird space. And ultimately, though, the guys who put on the jersey and go on the ice are paid to go out there, put a shift in and try and win everything. Not everybody does all the time, but that is what they're there for. They know it's not going right. They know it's not working, and how that ends up being changed is down to Paul Dixon, to Andy Hemmings, and the players. Certainly from a Nottingham perspective, Lemos got man of the match, but given the fact they played not very well, so let's be diplomatic about it, in the last game, To see Brendan Harris and Ross Armour, Harris in particular, I think I barely noticed in the first game he played, and then was much more impactful with Chase Pearson kind of working with him to kind of bring him more into the game. Matt Marcineau, industrious on that line as well. You know, it was solid enough, but I think Harris was kind of the guy who I noticed more, probably because I noticed him so little the time before. For the Flames, Matthew Gosselin got man of the match for the goal, which is fine. Personally, I think there are two consistent good points so far across the Flames season for the most part, which is the effort of Jack Jacome and the effort of Jake Kugler. I think those two at the moment are kind of the standout guys. Other guys just don't seem to have quite gotten their legs underneath them. Jacome, ultimately, I think would really, really benefit from just being told, do not change anything. He's aggressive on the forecheck. Everything is with intent. Everything is with a view to kind of either turning the puck over or getting the puck towards the net. That is what you want. Follow that man. Jake Kugler, like I said, having barely seen him, is almost past the points total that he got last season in like half the games. Clearly very, very good. That's not to say the other guys aren't trying. I'm not going to say here and say guys aren't trying, because Lord knows I can't do what they do. But ultimately, my job is to kind of sit up there and talk about it and tell you guys about it. And it's just not working on some level. And they need to change that. But then they know that. Like I say, this is not going to be a regular thing for In the Box Thinking. It's mostly going to be writing, because this is my method of kind of getting that thing out of me, and I much prefer writing in that sense. But wanted to keep up with doing one for every game. Wanted to make sure that we got something out there. So, like I say, just a bit of a stream of consciousness on this thing. The only thing I will ask, and I will ask one thing of you folks, the photographs that come with the pieces, right? And you can see the photograph on the piece that's here on the website. You can see it in the thumbnail of the thing. What do we want photos of? Because it's a little hard to know what to take photos of. If you've got some ideas as to what you might like to see, then just stick a comment down below on whether it's a social media piece, whether it's on the website itself. Let me know. Shout it up to me in the commentary box and we'll figure it out that way. Otherwise, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. You'll get all of the write-ups from the bits and pieces across the season. Hockey stories, a couple more in development now. Just pause because I've done one and just getting back into the run of doing bits and pieces. But the next one is coming. There's a few ideas turning in the head. And then Wednesday nights, usually, when the Flames aren't playing, Friday the 26th of September will be the What's Current stream, and then we'll be back on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. over on the BOTW YouTube channel. If you haven't already, do subscribe, come join us. It is all across British hockey. It is Elite League, National Division, Division 1, Division 2, WNIHL, SNL. We are covering the lot across the What's Current stream this season. We look forward to seeing you there. Have fun at the hockey wherever you find it. If you're travelling to Nottingham and you're a Guildford fan, enjoy yourself. Otherwise, Flames TV this Sunday, 6 p.m. face-off between the Guildford Flames and the Sheffield Steelers. My first time commentating on the Steelers, actually, which is going to be interesting for sure. Excited to see Matt Greenfield with my own two eyes. Have a good hockey weekend wherever you find it. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, it's Anthony Russell saying stay safe. So long till next time. Have a good weekend, everyone.